there, my name is Kelly Dell with offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to make the spring sentiment pendant. This is a quick and easy pendant that I think you guys are going to greatly enjoy. At the beginning of the video, I also show you a few little samples of necklaces that I'm adding into some of these pendants so you can get a little bit of an idea of something that you may want to put with yours. So if you enjoy the video, please hit that thumbs up button just so that my videos will show up in other beaders' algorithms and that we can spread beading all across the world. So let's go ahead and take a look at the supplies that you're going to need today to start the project. So let's take a look at the samples and then see what all we're going to need for our project. So this is the purple version of this pendant that I just absolutely love. You can see this is what the back is going to look like, and then this is the front. And then here's a blue version, and I'm not 100% settled on the necklace that I want to put this on yet. I started a crawl necklace, but I'm just not sure. But this is a blue version. I really felt like I stepped out of my box on this one because it's got greens and blues, and it's just incredible. Like, it's so pretty. And then this was the very first one of these that I made. I mainly have this today because I want to show you how different it can look with the different things that you put on the bottom. So you can see here, this one actually has a really large bottom to it, but you can look to the side there and it actually has, it's nice and proportionate, but I just didn't love it as much as I loved these other drops. So these are some of the different colors, and then today I'm going to be doing kind of this burgundy purple vibe on this. So to do this project, you are going to need an SS47 Chaton. You're going to need 8 4mm Druk beads. Now, if you do not have a Druk bead, you can use a pearl, a 4mm pearl, as long as it's completely round with no facets. You're going to need 8 4mm Bicones, 16 3mm Bicones. You're going to need about 4 grams of a Superduo bead. You're going to get a drop. So for me, I'm using a 22 by 13 drop that we have on the shop's website. You're going to need a jump ring for that because you can see here how I have the jump ring attached there. So you're going to need a jump ring or a bail, whatever you want to do. You're going to need 2 grams of a size 11 Miyuki seed bead. I call this one my color A. And then you're going to need 1 gram of a color B size 11 Miyuki. I'm going to use 2 yards of a 6-pound thread and 1 size 12 needle. So let's go ahead and get our materials together and get started. To get started, we're going to be using our 4mm Druk beads. And what I want to do is we want to pick up 4 of those Druk beads. And I can done see I have one that's kind of funky there, so I'm going to chunk that one. So let's go ahead and thread on 4 of these. Okay, so we have our 4, and now I'm going to bring these down. The only reason we have this little tail thread right here is we are going to stitch through a few beads with this tail thread here in just a few minutes. So it does not have to be a long tail thread. But what I want to do is I'm going to pass through all 4 of the Druk beads again. And now if you want to, this is completely up to you. If you want to, once you pull this through, you can tie these threads together if you want to. You don't have to, but you can definitely do that. I'm going to do that just for the sake of the video here. I normally would just go through it a couple of times and not worry about it. So I've tied it together, but then I am going to pass through all 4 beads again, and then I'm going to pass through that first bead that I started with one more time. And this is just going to make sure that all that thread is anchored in those beads, that it's not going to come apart, and that I have a nice sturdy base to my piece. So there are my 4 beads. Now we're going to be using our seed beads at this point. Remember I told you we needed 2 size 11 seed beads. We needed 1 with an A and 1 with what we call a B. So coming out of that purl, I'm going to thread on 3, back up. I'm going to thread on a 4 millimeter, getting ahead of myself there, 4 millimeter 3A, 1B, and 3A. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to thread on 1 4 millimeter. So I have a 4 millimeter, 3A, 1B, 3A, and another 4 millimeter. I'm going to take the needle. My thread is coming out this direction. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come right back through that same bead again to make a circle. So it's going to look just like this. Now I'm going to pass through the very next bead of this center circle of 4 beads. This time I'm going to thread on 1 4 millimeter, 3A, 1B, and 3A. I'm going to pass through 2 4 millimeters. So I'm coming out here. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come straight through these 2 4 millimeters here. So I'm coming through a side bead or a side 4 millimeter here of the loop I made. And then I'm going straight through it to that next bead. So it's just like this. And when I do that and I pull the thread, you'll notice now I have, excuse me, I have 2 loops here. So I'm going to pass through the next 4 millimeter there in that center section of beads. And again, I'm going to thread on 1 4 millimeter, 3A, 1B, and 3A. I'm going to do this step just like I did the previous step. I'm going to come back around and I'm going to pass through 2 of those 4 millimeters again. So it'll look just like this. And then pull it through. I'm going to pass through the last 4 millimeter on the bottom and then through the first 4 millimeter here. So I'm still passing through 2 beads here. So 1 and 2. And then we have to add that last little loop of beads here because you'll notice we have 1, 2, 3 loops. So we got to do that one more time. So we're going to pick up 3A, 1B, and 3A. And I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come across to this opposite side over here and I'm going to pass down through the 4 millimeter here so that when I pull this through, now I will have beads all on the top just like this. So I'm going to pass through the beads to exit out of any B11O on the top. So that means I have to go through 4 millimeters and then through 3A to come out of the B here at the top. And again, it does not matter which one of those 4 I'm coming out of. I just have to be exiting there. So you can do this how you want to. At this point, I put the chaton in face up and I hold it as I'm doing the next steps. But you have to do what's most comfortable for you. You can leave this out and do the next couple of steps very loosely and then put it in. Completely up to you. I just find that I get it tightest in here if I do it that way. So I'm going to thread on 1A. Yeah, 1A, 1B, and 1A. I'm going to pass through the next B in this circle. So I'm here, my thread is coming out this direction, so I have to continue in that direction. If your thread's coming out this way, you've got to come, you know, out of the other side, we would have to go back this way. So I'm going to pass through the next B, which is that one there, and pull this through. Okay, now when you pull it through, make sure that the beads that you're working with stay here on top of the stone. Now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to do the same thing. A, B, A. I'm coming out of the B here, so I'm going to come across and I'm going to come to this B over here. Now, this one, just like this. Now I'm going to turn it, thread on A, B, A, coming out here, and I'm going to come across to that next B. I'm going to pass through it, and again, pull the thread tightly so that it stays in there nice and centered as I work. And then last one, A, B, A, coming out here. So I'm going to come across to this one and go through it. Now at this point, you've got these beads on top, but this will not stay tight yet. Like if I let go of it, it's just going to all loosen up. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to reinforce the row again. So you see how it came out there? So you want to make sure, get it in there, get it the way it needs to be. And I just lost it. Hold on just a second. Okay, Lord, I had a tangled up mess there for a minute. See, it's good to, aren't you glad to know, like, I get tangled up messes too. Okay, so I'm going to continue to hold this in place just as I come through this next row. And each time I do, you'll notice I pull this tight around my finger and I hold it like this. That's just a little helpful tip for you because it will be a little bit loose on the top as you're doing this. So as I have to take my hands off to turn it, that's what I do. I just pull the tension and I pinch it in that one spot where my thread is coming out, and that holds it nice and tight for me. So already I can feel that this is tighter. So that's what we want to do. You just want to go through it till you're not having to hold it, basically. So I added the beads. I went through it once to reinforce, and I'm going through it again. And I always have people say, how do I know when I've gone all the way around? Y'all, it's okay. Like, don't stress. Just want to make sure that it's in there. There's 4 sides. We got this. So right now, it's completely encased. I don't have to worry about it falling out. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, since I know that I had passed through a few beads before I did anything else, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim that thread because I passed through with my other needle a couple of times. And now I'm ready to start the embellishments. So to start the embellishments, we need to be coming out of one of these 4 rounds here on the bottom. So I'll pass down through A's and 4mm and A. So again, it doesn't matter which one I come out of here on the bottom, and it doesn't matter which direction. I could have went the other way. I just like to work in this direction. So now we get to start adding some of our duos. So to do this part, we are going to thread on 1B, 1 Superduo, no sorry, 3, not 1, 3 of those, and a B bead. We're going to pass back through the same 4mm our thread is coming out of to make the circle. So that just means my thread is exiting this way. So I'm going to come right back through the same bead in that same direction, so that now when I do that, it's going to make a little loop of those duos around that bead. So I pass through the next 4mm here on the bottom. I'm going to do it again. So an 11B, 3 Superduos, and an 11B. I'm going to take the needle, I'm going to come around, and I'm going to pass through the same 4mm again, so that now I have 2 of those embellishments. So I'm going to do this twice more so that I have 4 little embellishment sections. Okay, so you can see here what we've got going on. Once we finish that row, this is what our piece will look like. So now we have to do what's called a step up. So I'm going to flip it over on the back here so it's a little bit easier to see it, because right now my needle is, and if you don't know, just pull the last loop to see here. Dadgum, I did good pulling that nice and tight. So yeah, right here, this one is the last one that I added. So now what I'm going to do to step up is I'm going to pass through the 11O and the bottom hole of the Superduo right there where my thread is exiting. So my thread is coming out of this 4mm to this side. So I'm just coming right back up through the 11 and the Superduo. And you'll notice I'm going through the bottom hole, which is a hole I already have went through. And now we've got one more step. We've got to take our needle and we've got to come through the top hole of that same duo. So what this does now, this makes us work in the opposite direction from what we would have been working in here. So now I'm going to thread on 1 3mm. And I'm going to pass through the open hole of the next duo. Now I'm going to thread on 2 duos, pass through the next one, two duos, pass through the next one here, make sure they're pulled tight and that you don't have any threads caught or anything there. And we're going to do this all the way around. So I pick up a 3mm, come through the open hole of the next duo there. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit here. Don't want to, there we go. And then 2 duos. Two duos. And already it's stiff. My piece is starting to stiffen up. It's not as floppy as it was on this previous row. So it's stiffening up, and now we're starting to get some really cool, a cool looking piece here. So 2 duos. And 2. And then a 3mm. Then we're going to do this one more time. We're going to throw our duos in. And then we're going to start some crystal embellishment before we move on to that outer row that we have on the pendant itself. So when I do the last one, you'll notice here that I'll be going through this one, the for 3mm and then this one here. So I go through 1, 2, and 3, just like that. I'm going through 3 beads at one time. And once you do that, this is what your piece is going to look like. Okay, now we're going to be adding that crystal embellishment. So I'm going to thread on 1 bead, 1 4mm bicone, 1 B, and 1 A. So B, 4mm, B, and A. And then we're going to take the needle and we're exiting here. So I'm going to come to the B that is centered over the duos, which is going to be this one right here. And I'm going to pass through that B bead. So you can see it's going to lay that crystal right there on top. Now I'm going to take the needle and I'm not going to add anything, and I'm going to pass back through the A that we just added. Then I'm going to thread on a B, a 4mm, and a B. And when I do that, this time I'm going to pass through this bead, and this one. So 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to do this one more time, and I'm going to pull it so you can see. You can see how what that does there. That just puts that at an angle. So again, it's a B, a 4, a B, and an A. And I'm going to take the needle. I'm going to come to the next B bead that's over the duos. And I'm going to go through that bead. I'm going to pass through the A that I just added. And then B, 4mm, B. And I pass through the next 3 beads here. So 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to do that twice more. Look at that. Look how awesome that looks. I'm loving it. Do this twice more to add crystals here and here. Okay, my friends, check that out. I know probably on the screen that these colors don't look great, but oh my goodness, in person, these colors are so rich. They remind me of wine. They're just so pretty. So I did the final step, which was going through the duo, the 3, and the duo. Now we have to step up so we can add the beads to this outer edge. So I'm going to go through the bottom hole of that first duo of the set of 2 right next to where my thread is coming out. And then I'm going to come through the top hole. I'm going to come this way so that now my thread is exiting at the top on this outer row. So I'm going to thread on a 6mm bicone. And I'm going to pass through the next duo. I'm going to thread on a 3mm and go through a 3mm, go through a 3mm, go through. So it looks like this. Now don't get ahead of me. Don't get ahead of me now. You're going to get yourself worked up and all stressed out if you do, because it's going to change up here in just a minute. Okay? So now we're going to thread on a 6mm and go through the next duo. We're going to thread on a 3mm, but this time we're not going to pick up a crystal like you would think we are, okay? We're going to thread on an A, a B, and an A. We're going to take the needle and come through the next duo. So it's going to make a little point there with my beads. Now It's a 3 millimeter, and I'm going to go through a 6 millimeter, 3 of my 3s here, so this will be 1, pop that out, 2, and 3. Now a 6 millimeter. So you should know what we're going to do at this point, because we have symmetrical here and here. So now we're going to do the same thing here and here. So it's going to be a 3, an A, a B, and an A. And then a 3 millimeter. And look at that. Man, like I said, I think in the screen, these are looking bright pink, but they're not. They are, oh man, this is pretty. Such a pretty color combo. I love it. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to pass through the beads so that we come out of this B bead right here. So just pass through the beads you've added to come out here. Once you're exiting out of that B bead, we're going to thread on 6 B beads. So I've got 3 and 6. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass through the B bead again to make a circle. And I'm going to reinforce this. And then I think you know what we're going to do. We're going to come over to here and we want to exit out of this B over here. Once you come out here at the top, we're going to make the bell. So I've made the bell to be a double loop like this. So when you actually thread something in it, it goes inside of the loop just like this. So you have, it looks like 2 on the back and 2 here on the front. So I'll show you on another sample. So like this is one that I actually am working on a spiral herringbone rope, and you can see how that looks on there. So the counts that I'm going to give you today are counts that will fit a 4 bead 11/0 spiral or crawl with size 11/0 seed beads. So that way it'll kind of give you an idea. So if you want to make something smaller, just use less counts. If you want bigger, add more beads. So I'm going to start and I'm going to thread on 10 of my A's. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so 10A. 1B and then 10A. Now, once I have those beads on there, I'm going to take and make the loops. I'm going to come back through the B bead. And now I'm going to reinforce this again. So I'm going to pass back through those beads again. Now, once you actually have the piece finished, if you want, you can go back and reinforce this even more, but it's not necessary because you're going to have like a double loop holding it. So it's completely okay if you don't do it more than what I've done. So now I'm going to thread on 10A. And with those 10 beads now, I'm going to come through the B bead here at the top of that loop. And when I pull it, I want to make sure that the loop stays to the front. Then I'm going to thread on 10. and I'm going to pass down through the B here at the bottom. And now when I pass through the B bead there, I want to make sure again that that loop is on top, so that both loops, so my first loop is here on the back, my new loops are here in the front. And I'm going to reinforce this a few times, and then I'm going to pass through the beads to exit this 3mm right here before the loop that I've got. Once I'm exiting that 3mm bead here, I'm going to take a jump ring and I'm going to attach it to my little pear-shaped drop here. Then I'm going to thread on that loop that I made with those B beads. And then I'm going to close that loop, making sure it gets completely closed and that I don't have to worry about that. So that adds the drop. But now we're not done, because I don't like the disconnect that happens here when we add that. So to fix that, what we do is we are going to take and let me grab my little 3mm here, and a 3mm, and we're going to come here to our loop and we're going to skip the first bead of the loop, and then I'm going to come through 1, 2, 3, 4 beads so that I start and end in this little set the same place. So I skip 1, and then I'm going to come through, there's 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and look how much better now. Look how much better that looks connected versus not connected here. So to finish that connection, I pick up my 3mm and my A, and then I pass through this 3 right here. And there we go, just like that. And oh, that looks so much better than just having that loop there. It connects that, just makes it look a lot better. So now we want to tie this off and with some half hitch knots. So where I'm at right here at this 3mm, I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass under the thread that connects the 3mm to the duo. I'm going to pull this through and leave a loop and then pull through just like that. And then I'm going to pass through the duo. This is why I call to use the 11 or the size 12 needle, because you're going to be passing through these beads several times. So it's going to get tight here on this, especially trying to add these knots that we're putting in. So now I'm going to go under the thread here between the 6 and the duo, leave a little loop and pass through and pull. And then once I'm happy with that, once I, am happy that it's not going to come out or anything like that, then I can take my scissors or my zapper or whatever I want, and I can get rid of that little thread so that now I have a completed pendant. So friends, I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the spring sentiment pendant. It's a quick project that really packs a sparkle punch, and I really hope again that you enjoyed that. I list all the colors that I used in the video on my step-by-step pattern, which you can find at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. And I also have color kits available for the purple, the burgundy, the blue, and then I'll throw on a couple of the tan ones as well. So guys, I hope that you all have a wonderful week, and make sure to come back next week where I'm going to be showing you another quick and easy project that is on trend for this summer. You guys have a great one. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.